Deborah stands out in the Old Testament. She is one of the few women in the Bible who held a position of significant authority and influence. Her story is not just a tale of leadership, but also one of unwavering faith and courage. She was a woman of immense faith. Her trust in God was unshakable, and it was this faith that guided her every decision and action. In a time when women were often not seen in leadership roles, Deborah broke the mold. She was a woman of courage. Her bravery was evident not just in her words, but in her actions. She led her people with a strength that came from her deep connection with God, and she answered God's call to lead his people. Deborah didn't hesitate when she felt God's call. She stepped up and took on the mantle of leadership with grace and determination. As both a prophetess and a judge, Deborah served as God's mouthpiece to the Israelites. She delivered God's words. She settled disputes. Her wisdom and fairness were known throughout the land. She guided her people back to God. In times of spiritual and moral decline, Deborah was a beacon of hope and guidance. She reminded the Israelites of their covenant with God and led them back to righteousness. Deborah lived in a time of turmoil. The land was filled with chaos and uncertainty. The Israelites were often at the mercy of their enemies, and their faith was tested repeatedly. The Israelites had turned away from God. They had forgotten their promises and were led astray by false idols and corrupt leaders. They were oppressed by their enemies. The weight of their disobedience was heavy, and they suffered under the rule of those who did not know God. Yet Deborah's faith never wavered. In the face of adversity, she remained steadfast. Her trust in God's plan was unshakable, and she inspired others to hold on to their faith. She trusted in God's promises. Deborah knew that God had a plan for his people, and she held on to his promises with unwavering belief. She knew that he would deliver his people. Her faith was not just in words, but in action. She led her people with the assurance that God would come through for them. Deborah's story is an inspiration. It shows us that true leadership comes from faith and courage. Her life is a testament to the power of trusting in God. It reminds us that God can use anyone to accomplish his purposes. He empowers the unlikely. No matter our background or circumstances, God can work through us. He gives strength to the weak. In our moments of doubt and weakness, God's strength is made perfect. He lifts us up and empowers us to do his will, and he uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Deborah's story is a powerful reminder that with faith, courage and trust in God, we can achieve the extraordinary. The Israelites had been living in the Promised Land for many years, but they had forgotten God. They turned to other gods. They abandoned his laws. As a result, the Israelites faced oppression. A powerful Canaanite king named Jabin ruled over them. Jabin had a cruel general named Sisera. Sisera had an intimidating force of iron chariots. These chariots terrorized the Israelites. They lived in fear. They cried out to God for deliverance. For 20 long years, the Israelites suffered, but God heard their cries. He had a plan to rescue them. He would use Deborah to deliver his people from their enemies. God spoke to Deborah. He gave her a clear message. Go, gather an army, lead them against Sisera. I will give you victory. Deborah knew that this would be a difficult task, but she didn't hesitate. She trusted in God's promise. Deborah summoned a man named Barak. He was a leader in the tribe of Naphtali. God had chosen Barak to lead the Israelite army. Deborah delivered God's message to Barak. Take 10,000 men, go to Mount Tabor. I will draw Sisera and his chariots to you, and I will give you victory. Deborah's words were bold. She spoke with authority. She was a woman on a mission. She was ready to lead the Israelites to victory. Barak listened to Deborah's words. He knew that God was with her. He believed that God would give them victory, but he was afraid. He asked Deborah, "Will you go with me?" Deborah agreed to go. But she warned Barak, "Because you have doubted, the glory of the victory will not be yours. The Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." Despite Barak's initial hesitation, he gathered the Israelite army. He prepared for battle. He knew that Deborah was right. God would fight for them. Section 5. The Clash at the Kishon River. The Israelite army gathered at Mount Tabor. Sisera heard about their movements. He assembled his army and his iron chariots. He was confident in his strength. He thought he could easily crush the Israelites. Sisera led his army to the Kishon River, a location chosen by Deborah. She had a plan. The river valley was dry, but Deborah knew that God would send a storm. As the two armies clashed, the heavens opened. A torrential downpour flooded the valley. The dry ground turned into thick mud. The Canaanite chariots became stuck. The mighty Sisera panicked. He abandoned his chariot and fled on foot. Section 6. Jael's Daring Act. This is a tale of bravery and unexpected heroism set in a time of turmoil and conflict. Sisera, the commander of the Canaanite army, exhausted and afraid, stumbled upon the tent of a Kenite woman named Jael. He was fleeing from the Israelite forces led by Barak, under the guidance of the prophetess Deborah. She welcomed him into her tent with a gentle demeanor, offering him a place to rest and recover. She gave him milk to drink, a gesture of hospitality that went beyond the usual offering of water. She covered him with a blanket, ensuring his comfort. Sisera felt safe, believing he had found a sanctuary. He thought he had found refuge, a place where he could finally let his guard down. He lay down and fell into a deep sleep, his exhaustion overtaking him completely, but Jael knew what she had to do. Her resolve was firm and her heart was set on a courageous act that would change the course of history. She took a tent peg and a hammer, tools that were common in her daily life, but would now serve a greater purpose. With a swift and courageous act, she drove the peg through Sisera's temple, pinning him to the ground. Her actions were both decisive and daring. Jael's act fulfilled Deborah's prophecy. The prophecy had foretold that the honor of victory over Sisera would go to a woman. The enemy of Israel had been defeated by a woman, a surprising turn of events that showcased the unexpected ways in which deliverance can come. The Israelites had won a great victory, a triumph that would be remembered for generations. And God had once again proved his faithfulness, showing that he can use anyone, regardless of their status or strength, to fulfill his purposes. Section 7. A Song of Victory. After the battle, Deborah and Barak sang a song of praise. Their song celebrated God's deliverance. It recounted the story of the battle, and it praised the courage of the Israelite warriors. Deborah's song is a testament to the power of faith. It is a reminder that God is always with us. He fights for us. He gives us victory, and he deserves all the glory. The Song of Deborah and Barak is one of the oldest pieces of literature in the Bible. It is a beautiful and powerful expression of faith and gratitude. Section 8. Deborah's Enduring Legacy. Deborah's story has inspired people of faith for centuries. She is a shining example of courage, leadership, and faithfulness. Her story teaches us that God can use anyone to accomplish his purposes. He empowers the weak. He gives strength to the fearful. And he uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Deborah's story is not just about a battle won. It's about trusting God's plan, even when it seems impossible. It's about stepping out in faith, even when you're afraid. It's about believing that God can do more than we can ask or imagine. Deborah's legacy continues to inspire us today. She reminds us that with God, all things are possible. Section 9. Lessons in Courage and Faith. Deborah's story offers timeless lessons. Listen to God's voice. In a world filled with noise and distractions, it can be challenging to hear the divine whispers that guide us. Yet Deborah exemplified the importance of tuning into that sacred frequency. She found moments of stillness and reflection, allowing her to discern God's will amidst the chaos. Deborah listened to God and obeyed his call. Her unwavering faith and commitment to God's instructions set her apart as a beacon of hope and leadership. She demonstrated that true strength comes from a deep connection with the divine, and that by aligning our actions with God's purpose, we can achieve extraordinary things. She didn't let fear or doubt hold her back. In the face of overwhelming odds and potential failure, Deborah stood firm. Her courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. She showed that when we place our trust in God, we can overcome any obstacle, no matter how insurmountable it may seem. She trusted in God's plan and acted with courage. Use your gifts. Each of us has been endowed with unique talents and abilities. Deborah recognized her gifts and used them to serve her community. She understood that these gifts were not just for her benefit, but for the greater good. By embracing our own gifts, we too can make a significant impact in the world around us. Deborah used her gifts as a prophetess and judge to lead God's people. Her wisdom and insight were invaluable in guiding the Israelites through turbulent times. She was a source of strength and guidance, showing that leadership is not about power, but about service and responsibility. She didn't shy away from her calling, but embraced it with boldness and determination. Partner with others. Deborah knew that collaboration was key to success. She valued the contributions of those around her and sought to build strong partnerships. By working together, they were able to achieve what none could have accomplished alone. Deborah recognized the strengths of others and worked alongside them to achieve a common goal. She understood that everyone had a role to play, and that by leveraging each person's strengths, they could create a powerful and effective team. She partnered with Barak, recognizing his military skills, and together they led the Israelites to victory. Celebrate God's faithfulness. After their triumph, Deborah and Barak didn't take the credit for themselves. Instead, they acknowledged the true source of their success. Deborah and Barak sang a song of victory, giving all the glory to God. Their song was a testament to their gratitude and recognition of God's hand in their victory. It was a powerful reminder that all achievements are ultimately a reflection of divine grace. They recognized that their victory was not their own, but a testament to God's power and faithfulness. This acknowledgement of divine intervention reinforced their faith and inspired those around them to trust in God's plan. Deborah's life is a testament to the power of faith. Her story is a vivid illustration of how faith can move mountains and change the course of history. It shows that with unwavering belief, we can face any challenge and emerge victorious. Her story encourages us to live courageously, trust in God's plan, and use our gifts to make a difference in the world. Deborah's legacy is a call to action for each of us to step into our own roles with confidence and purpose. Her legacy continues to inspire us today, reminding us that with God, all things are possible. As we reflect on Deborah's life, let us be inspired to listen to God's voice, act with courage, use our gifts, collaborate with others, and always celebrate God's faithfulness in our lives.